What's going on, family? It's Nick Wright Bodybuilding. So one of the best exercises for rear delts is an exercise that's commonly overlooked or done incorrectly. And usually when people are doing it incorrectly, they're actually doing the exercise technically correctly, but they're doing a different exercise altogether. And I'm talking about the upright barbell row, but with a wide grip. Alright, so it's quite simple. I'll break it down nice and raw for you. First, you want a very wide grip. Wide grip is going to ensure that you hit your rear delts at the top of the row, not your traps. You see a lot of people using a very close grip, and this is the style I was referring to. Close grip is going to target your traps amazingly. Great trap exercise, but we're hitting rear delts right now. So keep that grip wide. A good standard I like to go by is at the very top of the rep, your forearm and your upper arm should create pretty much a right angle. If you don't have exactly a right angle, if your forearm's a little bit on the inside of it, not a big deal, but it should be pretty close to a right angle. Good goal to shoot for. Adjust it as you see fit. Once you have that down, you want to make sure you row it up to just underneath your xenophoid process. Basically, just underneath your rib cage there. You don't want to go any higher than that. You don't want to go up to your chest. That's where it starts getting fishy. You start getting traps in there. You start moving your joints in ways that shouldn't be moved, etc., etc. Keep it classy. Keep it on the rear delts. Just up to your xenophoid process, no higher. This is going to keep it right on the backs of those shoulders. When doing this exercise, you want to make sure that you're leaning slightly forward. Keep the butt out, keep the chest out, just like you would if you're doing a back exercise. But you don't want to exaggerate that lean forward. I know a lot of people who try this exercise for the first time, they tend to try to over-focus on the lean, and they mess it all up, and it turns into a bent-over barbell row. You don't want to do that. If you find that leaning forward part is throwing you off mentally, stick to the basics. Stand just straight up, and once you get the form down pat, then you can work on that lean forward. Anyway, once you're leaning ever so slightly forward, just enough to get a better range of motion and really target those rear delts, again, drive it up to your xenophoid process and keep your elbows in front. You want to try to touch the wall in front of you with your elbows, because the further back you bring your elbows, the more it turns into a back exercise. You want to keep it right on your rear delts, so keep those elbows in front of you, touch the wall in front of you with your elbows, drive it right up, stop underneath your rib cage, and at the very top of the movement, you want to squeeze up and slightly flex your shoulders back. Not your elbows, just your shoulders. Up, back. That's going to give you a good squeeze in the rear delts. Amazingly. It's even going to hit your side delts as well. One really good trick to keep in mind that I always remember and I always tell anybody I train is to focus on what the upper arm is doing. Because really, when it comes to any sort of shoulder workout that involves lateral raises or hitting any of the side delts, rear delts, it's going to involve your upper arm. It's really going to be which direction is your elbow driving in. Not so much your fists or your forearms. So, for example, when doing lateral raises, what are you doing? You're driving your elbows up to the ceiling, keeping them higher than your hands. In other words, your forearms, your fists, they're irrelevant in that exercise. That's why when you go to a lateral raise machine, the pads are right here on your elbows, not here on your fists. You're driving with your elbows. Nobody cares what your hands and forearms are doing. They can have fun. They can have a little tea party. What counts is your upper arm. So watch that upper arm when you do a lateral raise. See what it's doing? See the motion there? Now, ignore the forearm. But imagine the forearm's not even there. Imagine the forearm's cut off. And just watch the upper arm next time you do this exercise. Then, go to these rows. Watch the upper arm when doing these rows. It looks almost identical, motion-wise, to that of a lateral raise. See the rows? My upper arm, how the shoulder moves. Pretend the forearms aren't even there. Just look at the upper arms. Same thing with a lateral raise. It's almost the exact same motion if you cut out the forearms. That's what you want to look at with any shoulder workout. You're going to love it. Subscribe now, guys, Nick Wright Bodybuilding. Check out the entire channel. Of course, any questions, if you have any videos of your own you want to share, post them up on Nick Wright Bodybuilding on Facebook. Tweet me. All the info is in the information box. Our family is Nick Wright Bodybuilding. Your side delts, the medial head of the deltoid, these sides of your shoulders. The one muscle group that gives you that width, that gives you that pop to your physique. Best way to work those, side lateral raises. The way you probably do those, if you're like me and about 90% of other lifters, is you take a moderately heavy dumbbell, you bend your arms in so they're not as high as a curl, but they're not straight armed either. and you then drive your elbows up to the ceiling, elbows staying higher than your hands at all times, and you're going to make your pinkies reach towards the